Okay, how about nuclear? Where do you stand on nuclear?
I'm not a big fan of the nuclear industry. There's too much chances for, they say, well, we haven't had an accident, but yeah, if you do, it wipes out about half of the country over there. I mean, that, and you can get your weapons grade materials, you have trouble getting where to store the spent rods and this and that. I think that we could get along with the wind technology. We can get along with the water technology. And
When you say water technology, you talking about dams?
well, hydro dams. Mississippi has one hydro dam on it, and that's in Keokuk. There's another hydro dam at the Mark Twain Lake. That's the only two hydro dams up and down that river. I think we could use more of them and use
Wouldn't
that.
the environmental group so be opposed to that?
Well, you know what? Let them be opposed to it, because I'm looking at what's going to save us in the long run. They do these studies and they tell you that, well, you're going to ruin the habitat for the bald eagle, or you're going to ruin the habitat for this one or that one. Everything changes. There's nothing that stays the same, and they will adapt. They will adapt, and 99% of the time it doesn't even bother them to begin with. It's you just got to use some sense about it, and I don't think a lot of them do.
The next one actually has to do with the environment. Do you give any credence to the August 2009 climate feedback article by Dr. Linzen and Choi from MIT and the emails from the scientists at the University of East Anglia Climate Research Unit, or do you believe the science is settled? This is global warming. Of course, we're talking about...
That's the one where the guy said, statistics and damn lies. Can't think who said it, because you can make it say anything you want. You can say half the people in the world have food, and you can turn around and say half the people are starving. I don't know if there's any global warming. I don't think there's enough data yet. I mean, the world's been around how many billions of years? Nobody's been living that long, well, except for my mother-in-law, of course, but she could probably tell us. But I mean, you just don't know, because everything runs in a cycle, and I've seen that. When I was a kid, we had a lot more snow and a lot colder weather, and now we've had some nice warm weather and less snow, and now we're getting back to have more snow again and colder weather. Mm-hmm. It's just what you believe in, and I think instead of doing the global warming fiasco, maybe they ought to take better care of the environment instead, and hold off and see what happens with the global warming. I know that the cap and trade bill was one of the deals, and I could not understand why you would let somebody that pollutes go to a company that does not pollute and buy credits so he can do that. Why not make him fix the problem? If he's dumping something into the river, make it stop. If he's doing something that's harming the air, have him fix it.
So I guess it all boils down to if people believe CO2 is a pollutant or not. Because the cap and trade has to do with CO2.
Yeah.
I mean, do you believe CO2 is a pollutant or not?
I don't think it is. I think there's other things out there that really need to be looked into and should be dealt with.
What are some of the big ones? What do you think the biggest environmental concerns are right now?
Right now, the ones that I would like to see would be the water, the ground, and the air.
And what are the biggest contributing factors to those three things, like for the water example?
Well, the water, actually,
runoff is a big one.
It's our agriculture runoff. It's the chemicals that we've used. And it's the same way. There's chemical companies that do the same. There's one that they were talking about up in the Great Lake area, where they actually are allowed to dump into the Great Lakes a certain percentage. That doesn't make sense. Why would you let somebody pollute a certain percentage of the lake? You can't do that. And the same way with the air. Also, along with another good thing with the biofuels and stuff is it does pretty good for the air pollution. They seem to say the studies point that it does help out. So that I would go to the environmental more than the CO2 deal.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about illegal aliens. Do you believe amnesty should be granted to those already here, or should they move back to the back of the line and come here legally?
Well, here's where I'm going to get in trouble. my mother's side of the family was Irish. And when they come over, it was no Irish need apply. Now, these people risk their lives coming here, and they do take some jobs. They do work. But we can't blame that's what's going on with our economy and your lot in life is because you have an illegal alien working at this factory. There's more to it than that. I think that they should be allowed to stay. I think that they should be allowed to work into citizenship. But I also believe that we need to get a hold on the immigration department. We need to make sure that everybody is screened and that we let the people in and that we know who's in. And we keep an eye on. If a guy comes over here to be a student and he hasn't attended school in 5 years, why is he still here? That's what we need.
One of the things that intrigues me about the debate is we have about 10 million or so illegal aliens. And the vast majority of those, 90% of them, come from essentially Central America and Mexico. Mm-hmm. And I guess the question would be is why should they take precedence over countries such as Sub-Saharan Africa, where the poverty rate is 10 times worse than in Mexico and Central America? Shouldn't they get a fair shot to come to America as, say, people in Mexico or Central America, just because of proximity? They seem to get, I guess, the benefit, I guess.
Well, I get, we could say that we would allow so many from each region, but then if you got family here in the United States and you're trying to bring your family in, I don't think it matters what country they're from.
Well, how do we stop them coming from up from the southern border so we can allow more people from, say, Sub-Saharan Africa or Southeast Asia, where they're much more destitute?
Well, a fence isn't going to do it. And even in Mexico, they're destitute. I mean, they thought NAFTA was going to stop this. I mean, that was the biggest reason they'd done it, plus the cheaper labor. Well, Mexico, I believe, is run by 10 families. The money is all in that 10 group. They go down there, you take the jobs there, they get the job, but they're still making 2 pesos a day. They come up here, at least, they're making $6 or $7 an hour. And they can provide for their family, and there is better medical here for them, too. I mean, you can't fault somebody for wanting to better themselves, and you can't fault somebody for coming up here if they're told, hey, your child needs this operation. I would. I'd walk across the desert with them. I don't care.
Okay. It seems that no matter what political parties in power, large spending bills, which may have not have passed if they stood alone, have been attached to more favorable yet unrelated legislation. So I'm going to the area where you talked about earlier about before. Do you believe this is an acceptable practice, or should all legislation be debated and voted on independently based on its own cost and merit, or at least grouped with related bills?
No, I don't believe in that system. I think that they should pass a law or a bill that says all bills are on their own. You don't lump them together. What you want to do is you want to give the president a line item veto. Most governors in most states have them now, majority of them. That way he can line item veto one item of your spending bill and keep the rest. I mean, you don't want to, and they've done it, and they've done it for years, piggyback a good bill with a bad bill. And that way the only reason they know the bad bill is going to get passed is because people want the other bill. Mm-hmm. They should all be on their own, and their own merits, and debated on their own.
Okay. I guess, do you think it's a good idea to read every bill in full before casting a vote?
Well, if a guy tells you he's going to read every bill in full, he needs to be a politician, because he's probably one of the biggest liars around. Not everybody's going to read every single page of every bill, and you're going to have staff that's going to do that for you, and you have to trust your staff, and you'll have to, you have to check up on them. And you'll have to do some study on yourself. But the main thing is he should come back to his constituents and see where they stand on the bill and explain it to them. I mean, because that's what I plan to do. I'll tell you where I stand on it. You'll tell me how to vote on it. And that's the way it should be.